Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Storytime English. I am so glad you are here with me today. Take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax, and let this story carry you into the life of a man who started with almost nothing and ended with more money than any human being has ever possessed. But first, let me tell you about his father. Imagine a tall man riding a horse into a small American town. He is wearing a fine suit and a wide smile. He looks like a gentleman. He tells the people he is a doctor, a healer who can cure their sicknesses. He opens a leather bag and takes out small glass bottles filled with colored liquid. He holds one up to the light. "This medicine," he says, "will cure your pain, clear your skin, and make you strong again." The people believe him. They pay him their money they have worked hard to earn. He takes it, tips his hat, and rides to the next town. He is not a doctor. The liquid in the bottles is worthless. He is a liar and a cheat. People in the area call him Devil Bill. His real name was William Avery Rockefeller, and his son, a quiet, serious boy who watched all of this, would grow up to become the richest person in the history of the world. Stay with me, because this is a story about what happens when a boy decides to become the opposite of his father. John Davison Rockefeller was born on the 8th of July, 1839, in a small town called Richford in the state of New York. His family was poor. His father, Big Bill, was away for months at a time, chasing one dishonest scheme after another. He sold fake medicines. He lent money to farmers at terrible rates, hoping they would fail to pay so he could take their land. He had a secret second family that his wife and children knew nothing about. Big Bill once said something about his sons that tells you everything about the kind of man he was. He said, "I cheat my boys every chance I get. I want to make 'em sharp." He cheated his own children to teach them. John's mother, Eliza, was the opposite. She was deeply religious, hard-working, and strict. She raised her children almost alone, with very little money. She taught them to be honest. She taught them to save every penny. She taught them to fear God and to never, ever waste anything. Young John listened to his mother. He watched his father, and deep inside, he made a choice. He would be nothing like the man who had abandoned them. His father lived in chaos. John would live in order. His father wasted money on schemes and lies. John would count every cent and waste nothing. His father could not be trusted. John would build a life on discipline and control. The family moved several times during John's childhood from New York to Ohio. They never had enough money. The houses were small and cold. The meals were simple, but John did not complain. He was quiet. He was patient. He was careful with everything, especially with money. When he was 16 years old, John moved to the city of Cleveland, Ohio. He walked from business to business, looking for work. For weeks, no one would hire him. He kept going. On the 26th of September, 1855, he finally found a job as a bookkeeper at a small trading company called Hewitt and Tuttle. A bookkeeper is a person who records every transaction, every dollar that comes in, and every dollar that goes out. His pay was 50 cents a day. He never forgot that date. For the rest of his life, even when he was the richest man on earth, he celebrated September the 26th as his personal holiday. He called it Job Day, the day his real life began. John loved this work. Not because it was exciting, it was not. He loved it because it was precise, it was orderly. It was the opposite of his father's chaotic, dishonest life. Numbers did not lie. Numbers could be trusted. He bought a small red notebook. He wrote down every penny he earned, every penny he spent, every penny he saved. Every penny he gave to his church. He recorded everything. He called this notebook Ledger A. He kept Ledger A for the rest of his life. When he was an old man, one of the richest people on earth, he still kept it locked in a safe, like a sacred object. He once said, "I place the greatest value upon it." It was just a little red notebook, but it had taught him the value of $1, and that lesson changed the world. For a few years, Rockefeller worked in trading, buying and selling grain, meat, and other goods. He was good at it. He saved his money carefully. He invested wisely. He was never flashy. He never spent on luxuries. While other young men went to parties, John went to church. While others dreamed of adventure, John studied numbers. Then, in 1859, something happened that would change America forever. A man named Edwin Drake drilled a hole in the ground in the state of Pennsylvania and struck oil. A dark, thick liquid came rushing up from deep beneath the earth. People called it black gold. Oil was incredibly valuable. People used it to make kerosene, a fuel that burned in lamps and lit up homes at night. Before kerosene, most people lived in darkness after sunset. They went to bed when the sun went down. Oil changed that. Suddenly, a family could sit together in the evening, reading, talking, working, in the warm glow of a kerosene lamp. Everyone wanted oil. Men rushed to Pennsylvania to drill wells, just as they had once rushed to California to find gold. Towns appeared overnight. Fortunes were made in a week and lost in a day. The oil fields were wild, dirty, and dangerous. But Rockefeller did not rush. He watched, he thought, he calculated, and he noticed something important. The men who drilled the oil wells were taking all the risk. They spent fortunes digging holes in the ground, hoping to find oil. Some struck it rich. Many lost everything. It was gambling. Rockefeller did not gamble. He decided he would not drill for oil. Instead, he would refine it. Refining means cleaning and processing the raw oil so it can be used as fuel. The drillers needed refiners. And the refiners made steady, reliable money, not the wild, unpredictable profits of the wells. In 1863, Rockefeller and a partner built their first oil refinery in Cleveland. It was a simple operation, but Rockefeller ran it with the same precision he had learned from Ledger A. He tracked every cost. He eliminated every waste. He found ways to use parts of the oil that other refiners threw away. He made his refinery more efficient than anyone else's. And then he began to grow. In 1870, he founded a company called Standard Oil. And over the next decade, he did something that no businessman had ever done before. He took control of almost the entire oil industry in America. His method was simple and ruthless. He went to the railroad companies that transported oil and made secret deals. Because Standard Oil shipped so much oil, he demanded lower prices for transportation. The railroads agreed. This meant Rockefeller could move his oil for far less money than his competitors could. His competitors could not match his prices. One by one, they began to fail. When a competitor was struggling, Rockefeller would visit them. He would sit across the table, calm and quiet, and make them an offer. "Sell your business to me," he would say. "I will give you a fair price. If you refuse, I will keep lowering my prices until you go bankrupt. The choice is yours." Most of them sold. Those who refused were crushed. In Cleveland alone, he bought 22 out of 26 oil refineries in just 6 weeks. People called it the Cleveland Massacre. By the 1880s, Standard Oil controlled roughly 90% of all the oil refining in the United States. 90%. One company. One man. Think about what that means. Almost every drop of oil used to light American homes, to fuel American machines, to power American industry. All of it flowed through John D. Rockefeller's hands. He became the richest person in America, and then the richest person in the world. Historians estimate that at the peak of his wealth, Adjusted for today's money, Rockefeller was worth somewhere between $300 and $400 billion. No one before or since has been wealthier. Not kings, not emperors, not anyone. And yet, through all of this, Rockefeller lived simply. He did not build grand palaces or throw extravagant parties. He went to church every Sunday. He ate plain food. He wore dark suits and spoke quietly. He was, in many ways, still the boy with the red notebook counting every penny, wasting nothing. The richest man in the world looked like an ordinary accountant. But great power always draws great enemies. In 1902, a journalist named Ida Tarbell began writing a series of articles for a magazine. Tarbell was no ordinary writer. She was brilliant, fearless, and she had a personal reason to hate Standard Oil. Her own father had been an independent oil man in Pennsylvania whose business had been destroyed by Rockefeller's tactics. Her series was called The History of the Standard Oil Company. It ran for 19 parts over 2 years. In it, she exposed with careful detail and hard evidence every secret deal, every ruthless tactic, every manipulation that Rockefeller had used to build his empire. She described him as cold, calculating, and merciless. Almost overnight, Rockefeller went from being America's most private man to its most hated. The articles were devastating. Millions of people read them. Public anger against Rockefeller exploded. Politicians demanded action. The government launched investigations. Rockefeller's response? Silence. He told his advisors, not a word. He refused to defend himself publicly. He called Tarbell that poisonous woman, but only in private. In public, he said nothing. He sat in his office, calm and still as a stone, and waited. But waiting could not save his empire this time. In 1911, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that Standard Oil was a monopoly, an illegal concentration of power that harmed the public. The court ordered the company to be broken up into 34 separate companies. Rockefeller's empire was torn apart, and here is one of the strangest twists in all of business history. Rockefeller owned shares in Standard Oil. When the company was broken into 34 pieces, he received shares in every single one of those new companies. And as those companies grew independently, companies that would one day become ExxonMobil, Chevron, and others, the value of his shares multiplied. The breakup of Standard Oil actually made Rockefeller even richer. But something had changed inside him. Rockefeller had always given money to charity. Even from his very first paycheck, he had given a portion to his church. He had already founded the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, today known as Rockefeller University, which became one of the most important medical research centers on Earth. But now, guided by an advisor named Frederick Gates, a Baptist minister with a sharp mind for strategy, Rockefeller began to give on a scale that no individual had ever attempted before. And he did not give carelessly. He gave the same way he had made his money, with precision, with strategy, with the long view in mind. He created the Rockefeller Foundation, which funded education, science, and public health across the entire world. Scientists at his research institute developed treatments for diseases that had killed millions of people. In total, Rockefeller gave away more than $500 million during his lifetime, the equivalent of billions today. He once said, "I believe the power to make money is a gift from God, to be developed and used, to the best of our ability, for the good of mankind." The man who had been called the most hated person in America was now building hospitals, universities, and research laboratories. The man who had crushed his competitors was now saving lives. In his final years, Rockefeller lived quietly. He played golf. He went to church every Sunday, as he had done his entire life. And he carried dimes in his pocket, small 10-cent coins which he would hand out to children and strangers he met on the street. The richest man in history giving away 10-cent coins with a smile. John D. Rockefeller died on the 23rd of May, 1937, in his home in Florida. He was 97 years old. He had outlived almost everyone from his generation, his rivals, his partners, and most of the men who had once competed against him. He had lived long enough to see the world transform from horse-drawn carriages to automobiles, from oil lamps to electric lights, from a young country to a global power. And he had been at the center of that transformation. And so, my friend, the story of the con man's son comes gently to its close. John D. Rockefeller's father taught him one lesson. The world is full of people who will cheat you, so you must be sharper than all of them. His mother taught him a different lesson: be honest, be disciplined, and waste nothing. Rockefeller chose his mother's path, but the shadow of his father followed him. The ruthlessness, the coldness, the need to control everything, perhaps those came from watching Big Bill ride away, time after time, leaving his family behind. In the end, Rockefeller learned something that it took him decades to understand. Making money was only half of the story. The other half, the harder half, was learning what to do with it. He spent the first part of his life building a fortune. He spent the second part giving it away. And the giving, he said, brought him more satisfaction than the building ever had. And you, my friend, are building something too. Every English word you learn is a small coin in your pocket. Some days it feels like nothing, just a penny, just a dime. But you are doing what Rockefeller did with his little red notebook. You are recording your progress. You are counting your growth. You are saving, word by word, sentence by sentence, story by story. And one day, you will look back and be amazed at how much you have gathered. Rockefeller started with 50 cents a day and a red notebook. You are starting with a pair of headphones and a story. Both are enough. Keep counting, keep building, keep learning. This is Storytime English. Tell me, my friend, what part of Rockefeller's story surprised you the most? Was it the con man father, the little red notebook, or the richest man in history handing out dimes on the street? Leave a comment below. I am always curious to hear from you. There are many more stories waiting right here, and I will be here when you come back. Until next time, take care of yourself and never stop learning.